My name's Nathan Watts and I'm in my third year doing a Bachelor of Secondary Education. My two teaching fields are film and media and physical education. I'm currently recording the night before my first prac, where I will be observing how teachers teach their classes in the classroom, teaching some classes and just professionally developing and learning the skills that you can't really learn from the textbooks at university and require more hands-on experience. Last week I met with my two supervising teachers and they made it feel a bit more relaxing and not so scary, the school environment, which is good. So it's good to have that frame of mind set that they're there to help me if things go wrong. In saying that though, I'm still very nervous about what the next 4 weeks are going to be like, and this is a video log of my reflections and experiences over the next 4 weeks of teaching. So it's going to be interesting. I kind of have envisaged what is expected of me and what I'll be doing. They've already asked if I would like to take on board some of the teaching, which I'm happy to do, and they'll be there to help me out if I need it. So I guess it's just, let's see what happens over the next 4 weeks, and I'll be recording every single day my reflections, how I'm feeling. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting 4 weeks. Let's see what happens. I'm on my way to the train station, heading off to my first prac. Pretty exciting. Yeah, it's pretty cold at the moment. So I suppose let's just see what today's got in store, and yeah, we'll cover what I've done during the day a bit later.
Okay. Dancing beat. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Get you on your dancing beat. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Get you on your dancing beat.
So just arrived on my first day in the staff room, getting ready for my first experience in the classroom. It should be fun. Yeah, best of all, I get my own cubicle. Got everything set up for the day and the next 20. So yeah, I'll see what classes. Just finished up my first class. Pretty fun. The class was watching Bend It Like Beckham, and which leads on to their assessment at the end. They're looking at the social issues that are apparent in sport, and basically a bit of a cruisy lesson, first start to Practicum, I suppose, really.
Thank you.
What I really got up to in the class was
How are you?
taking some notes on it. Which I can end up referring back to when we cover the discussion section of the class in the next few weeks. Okay, yeah, so that was day one. It went pretty well. Yeah, so I was in 4 different classes throughout the day. One was pretty cruisy, where I just sat in the HPE Year 8 class and they were all watching Bend It Like Beckham. Year Year 9 sports class, which was exciting. Was a bit more hands-on, running around, playing football, AFL I should say. From there I went into a Year 10 media class where they were looking at deconstructing and recreating recreating scenes from a movie of their choice, and it was an interesting lesson, especially to see how the teachers work with those students and how their different pedagogies and approaches are. After that, the last class of the day was a Year 12 media class, and it was really interesting. They were looking at creating their own documentaries and walking around helping them out whenever I could, and just working with my supervising teacher. It went really well. I'm really impressed, and so that was day one. It was pretty exciting. Okay, so today was day 2 of Prac. It was expected to be completely a sports day, but that ended up completely failing. I dropped my wallet on the bus and ended up having to stay at the school rather than go to sports. But on the plus side, I got to work with a Year 7 class, Year 7 film and media class with my film and media teacher. Worked with my film and media teacher, getting some stuff ready for the school musical, and even took a supervision class with him where he got me to teach the class, and really developed some interesting pedagogy towards teaching, like getting the students motivated to do their work, because all they seemed to want to do was ask me questions. So I told them if they could finish the work that they'd been set to do, I'd answer as many of the questions they asked me, and yeah, it worked out to be a pretty good day despite all the muck arounds towards the start. But other than that, tomorrow should be even better. I've put together a small documentary to show the Year 12 class how easy it can be, and saw some of the projects that I've done at uni to show the Year 10 class, because they're doing a project similar to what I had to do last year. Okay, so recording a bit later than normal, but that was an end to my third day on Prac. Good day, I must say. First 3 periods were film and media classes, Year 10, 11 and 12, and the last class was a Year 11 HPE class. So in film and TV, it was still very observational, but at the same time I was also involving myself with the students' work, building a rapport with them and helping them out with their work, and where needed to offering advice to them on what they could do with their footage. With the Year 12s, they're covering documentaries, so I put together a quick piece yesterday talking about myself, about growing up with Asperger's syndrome, and I just did it as a way to show them what you can do with a documentary idea, and even if you don't have like heaps of footage, you can still make something quite decent. So my supervising teacher for film and media studies is quite happy with that, so really happy about that, and wants to pass it on to their REACH program teacher. In the afternoon I was in the HPE class. I'm also just observing how the teacher ran the practical elements of the class. It was quite interesting to see what I've been learning in curriculum studies at university being applied into practical context, and for a full 50-minute, full hour lesson, rather than what we experience at university, which is generally about half that time, and most of it's us learning the theoretical components based around it. So today was a good day. Tomorrow I'm doing HPE for both lessons, and on my spares off I'm helping put together the social justice issues lesson that tangents off from them what the year 8's watching Bennett like Beckham, and we're focusing on the blind side. Alright, well, till tomorrow. Okay, so that was day 4 so far of prac. It's going good. It's going good. My nervousness, my being scared of how things would go, not so much there anymore. I'm also focused on what can I learn from the teachers, what can I learn from the students. So yeah, today I spent the majority of the day with my HPE supervising teacher. One of the biggest things he taught me today was learning how to improvise on the spot. We had the sports hall books to do volleyball. It ended up that the students who were going to Careers Expo were being assembled in the sports hall, and that kind of let us down a bit, which does suck, but at the same time it showed how a teacher can use initiative to overcome those issues. So we're playing some games with them out on the field, and then we went in, and when everybody left and finally did a game of volleyball. Today afterwards I worked on a piece of assessment that well, not a piece of assessment, I worked on a worksheet for the year 8 class that I had on Monday. We decided to go with The Blind Side as the movie that we're going to be using as the example for their assessment. So what we're going to do in class, they're going to read the review that we give them. They're also going to have a look at the movie, a movie trailer, like an extended one, and then they're going to use what they've seen and what they've read as the information for this worksheet, and it's all about identifying social issues. So I did that on my spare off, and then back on the oval we played a few games, introduced to a new game. It's sort of like, it's a crossover of touch football and soccer, and it's like you can choose what you want to start it off with to be, what kind of ball you want to use, and if you drop the ball, if you're playing touch and you drop the ball, knock it on and it hits the ground, it becomes a game of soccer. But if you're playing soccer and you kick the ball and somebody grabs it, it becomes touch football. So it's an interesting game. I developed some rapport with the PE students, discussing with them, asking them what their interests are, talking to them about sport, and yeah, the day went really well. So thumbs up, I suppose, and tomorrow's the last day of the week.
Okay. Dancing beat. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Let me get you on your dancing beat. Hi everyone,
Well, 1 week down, it's been truly an experience so far. Reflecting upon today, I can definitely say, from what I've observed in the class and participated in, I've learned quite a bit. Today, I had a spare to start with, so I used that time to work on just some university related stuff for this prac, like reflecting on the last few days, how teachers were working to QCT standards, how I have been meeting those standards in the classroom when I've been working with the students. So it's been quite an incredible journey thus far. So today in class, in HPE, the teacher I work with, he was away for the day, so I had another teacher who normally doesn't do PE being supervising the class, but like the other day, the year 11 class, because there's two HPE year 11 classes that fall on the same line as each other. That teacher basically ran the class, but she got me to ref what we did is we split the two classes into 4 groups, and we had 2 games of touch football playing. It was fun, an experience, a lot of running around and learning quite a few things. Like, to be honest, I'm not the best person when it comes to like football, and having to ref a touch football match, I had to learn quite quickly the rules. Like, within a couple of minutes I was pretty much on the ball. When playing the game, sometimes the students would point out to me, it's like, oh, that was a knock on, and I'd be like, okay, well, it's a knock on, yeah. Or if people were offside. So I knew the fundamentals, but it was just building upon them and actually being able to enforce them. So it was quite an interesting experience, and I'm glad I got it, being in direct contact, running to a degree the classroom, especially year 11. So it was interesting, and I got to see how the students interacted with each other, potential peer conflicts with one another. Later in the day, had the year 11 film and media class, and that was, it was the year 10 class. That was quite good. They were just finishing off like their scripts for their work, and I was kind of like observing how they work, how they interact, how the classroom environment is being utilized to best help them. And they had students who use the ICT resources available to them, doing work, helped 2 of the students in the green room set up the cameras and on tripods and lights, so they could help my supervising teacher for film and television finish the video clip for the musical ad. And yeah, then at the end of the day, we had the year 11 film and media class who are working on the ads, and I basically sat back and let my supervising teacher run the class, just sat there and was kind of just listening to what they were doing. But there were 2 groups that I did interact directly with one of them was asking me, how would you best word this? And I gave my opinion on how I thought it would best be worded. Another group getting quite sidetracked quite easily, so I kind of made him a deal. I'm like, tell you what, if you can do more work than what I can do by the end of this lesson, I'll bring you in something next week, like a Coke each or something like that, just try and get him motivated. Turns out I still ended up doing more work than them, but at the same time I did have quite a bit of discussion with them. Like, I got one of them to start preparing their shooting and post-production scheduling, while I discussed with the other person how best to lay out the format and text for their production, what best meets those words and the theme. So yeah, after that, the day was over. My film and TV teacher said next week we'll get you to start taking on some of the class load teaching wise, so it's going to be exciting. Next week's going to be great because that's when I'm going to really start getting involved in the classes. So yeah, well, till Monday morning. Okay, so kicked off week 2, day 6 of Prac. There's 14 days left to go. Today was a split day, so PE and film and media classes. I joined in by reffing a football match, soccer match with the year 8 class. It was a bit tricky, to be honest. Like, just trying to get the students organised was the biggest bugbear of all, that whole entire class. Following that, we had the year 11s, I believe it was, doing AFL, and from that lesson I'd learned quite a few interesting drills and techniques that could be used. Like, there was one in particular which I thought was quite interesting. My supervising teacher described it as into the mouth of the dragon style drilling, and it worked to motivate the students by presenting the teachers as targets for them to try and hit. If you could hit the teacher on the full with a kick, when you kick the ball, the teacher has to drop and do 5 push-ups. I, towards the end, got hit once, so I had to do 5 push-ups. But the way the game was constructed, it got everybody participating. Some of the students even wanted to jump in and be like, oh, we'll be targets too. And what I noticed, and my supervising teacher noticed, is that their accuracy started to get better when presented with targets. After that, we ended up just playing a normal game of AFL, and I jumped into the film and media classes. So the year 10s, first of all, got up and talked to them about the assessment practice shoot that we had to do before we could film, and last year in narrative productions, and showed them the clip that I'd put together with my group. They seemed to enjoy that, and showed them what could be done on a time constraint, and got a bit of a laugh out of them in regards to that. So there was that, and then in the afternoon we had the year 12s again, and I got involved, spoke to them, saw what they were doing, trying to get them, to like get into the work, make sure that they're where they should be or ahead of where they should be. And yeah, the day ran quite smoothly, so I'm happy. Okay, so day 7 done and dusted. Just about to head home. So today worked pretty well. It was I was working directly with my HPE teacher. First off, we had the year 11 theory. When I'm looking at energy systems, and it was really interesting to see how the teacher I'm working with structured that lesson, like starting off with a quiz from the lesson before to attempt to scaffold the knowledge, and working directly with the groups, like setting a question for them and getting them to work in groups and walking around to those groups and being like, okay, so explain to me what you guys have discussed and your rationalization of what's the predominant energy system used in touch football. So it was good to see that kind of approach. Then had a spare, and during that time I worked on some lessons for the next week. Pathways lesson, which is like homeroom form kind of thing, and the teacher of that, he spoke to the students about respecting, being friends, not bullying, because there was an incident late last week. So developing on from that, they took aside the people involved in the incident, and I took the rest of the group out and ran some outdoor education initiative games, which I have a strong point in because it's the area I've got specialised skills in. So I did that, and they really took a liking to it. Even the introduction of the game, they thought the concept was quite amazing. Finishing up, we had the year 8s high performance sport class come in, and the breathing system, so like your lungs, your vascular system. And it was interesting to see how the teacher once again scaffolded the lesson, and not only that, they at the end of the lesson engaging by doing a game of pyramid.
Okay, so day 8, almost halfway through my whole prac experience, so it's good. Day was pretty exciting. The teacher I work with for film and media, he was away for the day, so we had a supply teacher come in, and it gave me an opportunity to really take charge and establish myself as a teacher in the classroom. So what I ended up doing was I ran some short learning episodes to begin with the year 10s first up. Spoke to them about how important it is to plan for productions and the best way to sequence their production plans in regards to shooting and editing. Then we had the year 11s come in, and they're doing advertisements, so I showed them a little project that we put together at university, which was a bit of a farce advertisement about university survival tips, and got them to really analyse the clip and tell me what advertising techniques I used in it. For example, one of them was the subliminal product placements we put in it for like stuff like Facebook and buying textbooks. Then when we had the year 12s, I showed them what's been done so far on this video log as a documentary, and showed them little segments from the first week and got them to have a look at it and pick up on documentary techniques. What I was really happy about was they actually got that I was going for the real personal self-reflexive angle, like example from the first week when I had the camera attached to me and the fast forward shot of me walking through the school to the staff room, and they were able to identify I was trying to make it very personal through that approach. Other than that, pretty much my role during the day with the film and media classes was working with them to help them do their production work, like went out and helped some of them set up their tripods and make sure they're shooting right. But yeah, that was film and media for today. Last class I had up was the year 11 PE class, and they're doing theory all about energy systems, focusing on like touch football and what makes a good touch football player, what attributes they have. While my prac teacher was doing that class, I was preparing the lesson plan for the year 8 class I'm going to be taking next week, and yeah, that pretty much wrapped up today. Okay, so day 9, almost halfway through prac. Today was a pretty standard day in film and media. I was helping the students with their work and also putting together a lesson plan for year 9s in regards to their production phase of their advertisement assessment. So it's interesting because I've been working to ACARA standards in the curriculum studies units and having to backtrack and go through the Queensland syllabus and try and decipher that. Proved a bit challenging, but I eventually wrapped my head around it. So that was film and media today. I started to feel a bit unwell, like getting massive headaches, and my vision was starting to blur up a bit, so I organised for the end of my third period to head off home because I had a spare, and they were cool with that because they said to me it's basically just time to do your professional administrative stuff, like put together lesson plans, which they said I'm fine to do at home, even though I said I'll make up the hours next week, and they're like, oh, don't even worry about it. So I went to my third period class, and the teacher noticed I was feeling a bit off, and they're like, oh, you can go home if you want, I don't really mind, we're just going to be playing a game of touch because, yeah, there's not really much to do today. It's just a bit of a fun day. I did opt to stay around for at least half the lesson, where I got to actually try teaching a practical PE class. I took a game that we'd learnt at university called M-ball, which combines elements of netball with elements of football, in the fact that you've got like a field and there's 2 scoring zones. The way to get possession of the ball is intercepted, or if the team throws the ball, nobody catches it, lands on the ground or goes out, goes to the other team. And basically just passing and running, it really developed their ability to pick up on where people are. It's an invasion game, it's all about strategy. So after that I headed home, had a bit of a rest, but it was nonetheless a good day despite not feeling too good. Tomorrow, a bit nervous, get my interim report back to see how well I'm doing. Hopefully I'm doing well.
Okay. Dancing beat. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Get you
Okay, so day 10's completed, halfway through prac. Before I talk about what results I got, bit of a run through for the day. So first up, I spent a bit of time in the staff room working through some lesson plans for the next week when I'll start doing a bit more teaching, and was bucketing down rain. It was a bit of a fun day in the staff room. Well, all over the school. The school's doing a musical called Back to the 80s, and what all the staff did is they all dressed up in like 80s themed costumes. Like we had staff dressing up like as Ghostbusters and stuff like that. My contribution to it was I was playing some 80s music in the staff room. Lunchtime they had a DJ going out at the canteen area. After that I had year 11 HPE, and I went with a different teacher today, similar as to last time, whereas two different teachers running classes at the same time, and I went with the other group because they were doing their heart rates throughout exercise while they're playing touch football. And during that I participated as a referee, and then the teacher that I was working with took over refereeing to scaffold what I should do when I'm refereeing a match, just to show me, like, continually talk, give direction, advice to the students and stuff like that. And then I went back on and get refereeing. After that, ducked up to the film and media classroom, and I was working with some of the students there. It was a bit of a nightmare to a degree. One student was like, "Oh, I lost all my work," and I'm like, "Well, you should back it up." And they're like, "Oh," so I said to the girls in the group, "Well, why don't you go down and print off your storyboards?" And they're like, "Oh, she's got them." And it's like, "Well, get her to give them to you." And she's like, "Oh, you see, they wrote my booklet and their booklets, and I'm doing the storyboards for them." I'm just like, hold up a second, are you just printing off 3 copies of the one storyboard? And they're like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "You can't do that, that's plagiarizing." And they're like, "Oh yeah, we can." I'm like, well, we spoke to year 11s about the exact same thing the other days, the day before, so yeah, and ended up pulling the teacher over and told him what they'd said. He's like, "No, if you hand it in exactly the same, I will make you guys rewrite it." So didn't win any brownie points with them on that respect, but other students came to me asking advice how to work things. I even helped one girl fix up her analytical essay, showed her how to use the markup function in Microsoft Word so you can track changes, and helped her punctuate and word her essay better, and she was very happy about that. After that we had year 8s playing sport. It was bucketing down with rain, so we used the sports hall and ended the Friday afternoon in a great way, playing dodgeball, all 4 classes rotating on, being told to jump in with the class I work with by my supervising teacher, and, you know, throw a couple of balls, try and get some students out. So yeah, that was quite fun, I must admit. So yeah, and the day ended, so I got one interim report back, and that was from my supervising teacher for film and media, and on Monday I'll get the other one from my HPE supervising teacher. So for my film and TV, the teacher that I work with, he marked me as well developed in all the areas except for the literacy and numeracy standards, which he gave me developing adequately, because we don't really have much of a core focus on literacy and numeracy in the lessons that we're doing, but I was demonstrating adequate development of teaching literacy and numeracy throughout those lessons. So he was happy with that, and overall he gave me an excellent, which is the highest mark possible. And then yeah, headed home, and it was a great day. So back again on Monday. Okay, so I forgot to record yesterday, so I'm doing it now. Yesterday was day 11 of prac, just over the halfway mark. So I was supposed to be teaching the year 8 class who are doing Bend It Like Beckham for their exam, do the contextualised activity using the blind side, but the supervising teacher I work with was away. So instead what I did is I got up in front of class, talked to them and introduced myself a bit, so they got to know me a bit better. They just know me have known me as the prac teacher because a lot of stuff we've been doing is very physical. And I posed them the opportunity to ask me any questions that they want to know about me, and yeah. After that, what I did is I held a little discussion with them, like what's a social issue in sport, got them to put their hand up and give me a couple of examples of what social issues are. From there I said, why would these be issues, and kind of used the whole technique of finding the people that aren't engaged and asked them to give me an answer, and despite them not being fully engaged, they actually did come up with a really good response, which I'm happy from a year 8 class. They said that it was because people make judgments of other people, which was perfect. I told the class what the answer was, and yeah, I took a few examples. I'm like, so in line with sexism, we have just recently heard about the first openly gay American football player, because not many people who are in sports come out about their sexuality because they're uncomfortable, they feel like they're going to be treated differently. Then I posed it to another person, using something from Bend It Like Beckham. Give me an example from Bend It Like Beckham, and they're like, oh, the father said he didn't play cricket because he was laughed at because of his turban around his head, which was perfect. So they really understood the examples of social issues in sport and why they are social issues and what's present. So then what I did is I took them down to the hall instead of running the plan lesson, because I couldn't really do it without the resources. So I took them to the hall and I got them to play a game of line tag, so running along the lines to get them to really perceive the space around them. From there I got them to play a game of soccer, and I jumped in with one of the groups because of the numbers, so I played with them. It was great fun, meanwhile running around making calls at the same time, and like bibs, ball, shirts, mark up a player to try and intercept, that kind of stuff. Really gave them feedback while I was playing and reffing at the same time. From there, went into year 11 class. They were doing AFL, so I helped out with some of the drill game activities that we're doing, and then from there supervised some of the students that weren't participating in the game. After that, went to film and media. It was a fun time. We had year 10s first, and like usual, just helping them out with their work and backwards and forwards with ideas. From there, year 11 class, year 12 film and media class, and I played for them the clip I put together where I took a segment from a documentary and laid it over 4 different times with different music, and it was a task for them to work out the symbology of music, what drives and emotions it puts. So today was pretty good, and yeah, yesterday was pretty good, I should say, and I'll be recording a bit later tonight for today's reflection. Okay, so yeah, day 12. Woohoo! What did I get up to today? So I spent pretty much the whole day with my film and HPE teacher. So off was in the form class. Then from there had the year 11 HPE class come in, and we were working on their theoretical content covering sports, covering energy systems, so ATP, PCR, lactic acid, and anaerobic. So I observed this class sitting back and watching and letting the teacher I'm working with basically run the lesson. I did chip in here and there with a few things, like one of the examples was they were talking about how, like, when you've been exercising, you don't go straight to drinking freezing cold water, and I pitched in saying that in the worst cases where you're completely drained and overheated because of the exercise and you drink cold water, you can send your body into shock. So there's examples like that, but the way the lesson was structured and the content was delivered, it was very relatable, real life experiences. The teacher talking about how he exercised and did certain things, so it was pretty good. It was well constructed. I was quite impressed with seeing that. Then after that, we had a supervision of a Year 11 Math B class, and we both look at each other and it's kind of like, do you know how to do Math B? I'm like, yes, kind of, but I don't like doing algebra. And he's like, I don't know how to do it either. So luckily the class was very well organised themselves. They basically looked after themselves. We just told them what the teacher had left for them to do, and we sat there and managed to do some work that we needed to get done for the other classes, because it would have been a spare for us. One of the things that he did show me was this cool little program called Class Dojo, and it's basically a way you can track and monitor behaviour management and participation and all those classroom management things in class, and it kind of tallies up points and takes away points for when there's something that hasn't been done right, for example not participating or being rude in class, etc., kind of thing. And it's great because students can log on and see how many points they've been awarded. They can also jump on and see, their parents can jump on and see what their students have been awarded or what they've done wrong in class. It's also a great way for the teachers to see where there are behavioural management problems through an analysis of all the achievements and all the penalties. So, for example, the biggest achievement for the high performance sport class was they got their homework done on time and always had it submitted. The biggest negative of the class was sometimes they didn't hand in assignments. So for that class it was a 75% awarded and 25% negative rate, so it's quite good. From there we had the pathways class, where just talking to them, they got them to do a school survey, kind of to see how the staff are teaching and stuff like that. So it was good. From there, got them prepared for their exam that they had next, and after that had their exam in the final period. After that, had a bit of a teacher staff meeting talking about what we've learned, things like that. And I got kind of put on the spot and asked about an incident that happened yesterday where a kid kind of lost the plot because we weren't doing what she wanted to do. And and I asked how I'd deal with that if I was the actual teacher in charge of the classroom. So it was a good day. I got home, marked some assessments, and from the exam I also put together 2 lesson plans and prepare that I'm going to be taking on Thursday, as teacher will be away, so I'll be taking the high performance sports class. I'm going to be doing a fitness lesson with them in the first period, and then after that we're going to be doing a volleyball lesson. Other than that, just preparing for tomorrow, doing an advertisement juxtaposition workshop, so it should be interesting. Anyway,
So that was Wednesday, day 13? Yeah, day 13. And that was yesterday, because once again, I managed to record last night. The day was actually really interesting and sporadic. So to start off with, I worked in film and media with the year 10s, and what I did for most of the lesson was I went to the blue room and I was helping two students in there, basically composing the shot, making sure they had the lighting right, getting their camera angles correct, and the complete setup. So that was an interesting experience in itself. After then, ducked out to do a few things and then came back, and the school ended up going into a lockdown because of students in the yard getting into a massive fight. So they had to put the school in lockdown to deal with that. So that interrupted the next few classes. We had to go to our pathways class and mark the roll, make sure everybody was there. While we're waiting to hear back, we played some celebrity heads with the students. From there, we had 20 minutes left in the second period, so we ran a film and the juxtaposition lesson with the students, just so they could get an idea of what they had to do, to try and also give them some insight on how to enhance what they want to get across in their ad. From there, we were going to have the Year 12 class straight up, but a special assembly was called for Year 10, 11 and 12, and the Year 12s came up, put their stuff away, and then we had to take them all down to the sports hall, and the principal basically had this massive speech about what happened and really set the standard and policy of the school in regards to harassment and fights. So it was interesting to see the level of discipline and how angry she was at what had happened. I mean, like, if I was in that situation, I would be too. Final period, what we would have done is, myself and the film and media teacher I work with, we had a supervision planned to go to a science class, and it was just like, I don't know what kind of science this is, and I'm just like, well, if it's biology or basic physics, I can help you there. Anything else, don't ask. And he's like, yeah. So we ended up finding out it was an exam that we were going to be monitoring, and just before lunch ended, we found out that we're no longer looking after that class, and we're looking after the another teacher's film and media class because she had to go home. So we did that, and I showed them the music as a symbolical element video, and they really got involved in that activity. It was interesting to see the dynamic of student participation in the classes. From there, worked with some of them to help them put together their practice ads that they were doing, and yeah, it was a very interesting day. I can safely say I learnt quite a bit from the jam-packed experiences that occurred in that day. Day 14, quite an interesting day. So I had the Year 8 high performance sport class, and what I ended up doing is I ended up coaching volleyball first. So I did some drills and micro games, and then built into a bigger game. Had an incident where a child got falconed in the face by a volleyball, because one of the kids kicked it, and yeah, so I ended up taking the whole class aside and speaking to them, because I'd said numerous times not to kick volleyballs around, because that's not their purpose. After that, I went up into a film and media class, helped out down in the blue room for a bit with some of the students shooting their work, and then from there I went to the hall again, where I worked with the high performance sports class once again to coach them. But we did fitness drilling, and this time I had, for a supervising teacher, the head of the department for HBE, so it was a bit nerve-wracking. What I ended up doing was we got them to do threshold. Well, I got them to do a threshold workout. So they went, they sprinted, then crawled, sprint, walk, sprint, crawl, sprint, walk, like that. There were also workstations for them to do activities on, so like jumping jacks, keep the ball in the air, push-ups, and jog on the spot. And we also had the volleyball court marked out, but the net not set up, to try and get him to do deep serving from deep and landing short in the court, in the opponent's court. From there, I ended up taking him into a game, and yeah, it went pretty well. After the class, the head of the department who was supervising the class with me, she took me on playground duty with her and told me what I did good, what I can improve on, and she acknowledged the fact that I only had 2 days to prepare for this. I did quite a decent job, and considering that it was one of the first times I actually taught full lessons, I did a pretty decent job. So yeah, it was a good day. Day 14, done and dusted.
Okay, so day 15 of prac completed. It's another 5 days left, and then I've finished the whole 20-day experience. Today was a real eye-opener for me as a teacher. Start off with, I came in and jumped into a numeracy class so I could get a bit more developed in that aspect and understand how teachers are developing students' numeracy skills, especially in junior secondary. From there, I went into the Year 11 HBE class, and they were continuing to work on their assessment by having heart rate monitors on them. The people that already had done it, I was asked to take and run a few games, including modified games, which I'd planned out to do. And started out explaining the rules, and another teacher came over and spoke to the group, telling them that they need to listen to what I say, be respectful, and then he went back to the other side of the field to start working with the students, and I explained to them the game, which is pretty much a power game of touch football where there's 4 balls on one score line, and you start off, the attacking team starts off and it's infinite touches. The only time that they have to start it back from the score line is if they manage to score or they knock on a ball or drop it completely. They got to run back and get it, and the defending team is trying to stop them from scoring, but they can't gain possession of the ball. and after 2.5 minutes, one defender drops off every 30 seconds. So that was the game, and it's something I'd learnt at uni and tried teaching it to them, and they just didn't get it. So pulled them aside and asked them about if they knew what they were doing, and they explained it to me word for word what they were supposed to be doing, but they didn't end up doing it. From there, I ended up saying the reason why I was getting them to do that was the way I've been taught how to teach classes, especially in PE, is to start off with modified games, then build into an actual game, so to develop their skill. And some of them turn around and it's like, oh, but we already know all the skills, we're already good at them. And at that point I was just like, it really doesn't matter, it's just to try and get you guys to get warmed up and get in the game mind. And there's a lot of minor and psychological skills as well that they don't really understand, like perception of players. After that, I ended up trying to get him into teams and to do a round robin match of touch, and that just ended up falling apart completely. And even during the gameplay, they weren't listening. They were just a bit all over the place, and then they all, well, about 3/4 of the class walked off and over to where the sports hall is and sat on the bag racks, one of them saying, oh, we've got to go to our next class. And I asked the people that was with me just to grab the stuff and walk back over, and my supervising teacher asked me what was going on, and I told him. And he's like, no, we've still got like another 25 minutes left. And I was like, well, do you want me to tell them that I have to get back over there, and if they want to keep being disrespectful, they can get a detention? He's like, if they do it next time we're in this class, if they do it again, yes, but I'll take them from here. So he took them over and ran a match with them, and only half of them rocked up despite 2 teachers speaking to them. And after that lesson, it got me quite down, and I was actually thinking, would I be able to handle this, or does this make me suitable to be a teacher? It was quite difficult, and that question stuck with me for most of the day. But he said, it's fine, you are still learning, and if you were even doing relief work, you'd have students who are acting like that all the time. So from there, I went to film and media class, and the teacher got me to help out some of the people in the blue room. They were doing the retake scene, and the girls were putting makeup on one of the boys because they were redoing the Hunger Games. It was funny to see, and we're having a bit of a joke about it. So film and media class went quite well. And then I had to go to the HPE classes for year 8s, where we were working on the social issues lesson. That ran fairly well. I had a student who in the middle of class got up and was just like, F this, and walked into the connecting classroom. I just got the students to get on task and answer a couple more questions. I went back and spoke to him, and yeah, he seemed quite responsive, and I wasn't able to figure out what exactly had happened to cause him to blurt out like that. But at the end of the lesson, myself and my supervising teacher were talking about it, and he said on Monday when we have him again, we'll talk to them. Oh, we'll talk to him and find out what exactly happened, and I'll get you to ring his parents and speak to them, just to, just so we're covering all those grounds. He said I did a pretty good job for teaching my first theory lesson. There's a few things I could fix, so we're going to go back over the lesson on Monday so they really get the hang of what they're supposed to be doing. So something to look forward to next week. A lot of learning experiences happening, but the day for me was it was very interesting, and reflecting on it, I think it's safe to say I'm one of those very few students who have experienced in 3 weeks of prac what most people don't experience across their whole bachelor degree when they're on pracs. So trying to have a positive outlook for next week, but we'll see what happens. Other than that, today wasn't the best, but the week was pretty good, so at least it's something to reflect on and build upon for next week.
Dancing beat. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. To get you on your dancing beat. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. To get you on your dancing beat.
Okay, so today was the start of the final week of prac. It was kind of a bit sad knowing that I've only got 1 week, well 5 days left. So yeah, the day started off pretty well. I got the exams reprinted off for the Year 8 class and walked them through it. I spoke to them about how to correctly respond to a question by started by paraphrasing the question so it links into your answer, giving your response and then justifying it. That way I can understand why you wrote that response, and a lot of them seem to got it, and their work effort has improved so far. So currently what I'm doing is I'm actually going through and marking what they've done. The teacher that I was working with, he gave me some valuable feedback. He says that my presence around the class was good, though I need to make sure I set expectations and consequences when they're not on task or focused. Another thing I should have done is gone through the answers as they were going at their own pace to help them. But yeah, after that, had the HPE Year 9s doing AFL, did a few drills with them, and then helped set up a field and ran alongside in a match, checking out what they were doing with my supervising teacher. From there went into film and media, and it was a bit of a cruisy day. My film and media teacher is going to be on campus but not teaching the class this week because he's doing some marketing and filming work for the school. So I was told I'm going to be the one teaching the class, but there's going to be a supervising teacher there with me. So while that happens, I'm kind of like looking after the class. But today was crazy because the Performing Arts Centre was in use for the musical, so we couldn't really use the computer room. So the year's hands watched the movie, and I used that time to do some marking and some other work. Then from there, went up to the Year 12 class, and once again it was quite crazy. A lot of them were participating in the musical, so they weren't there, and I just supervised the class, making sure they were on track. Tomorrow, going out to sport, and we'll be reffing some under 13 touch football matches, so it will be a good day.
So, day 17. Today what we did is we went to inter-school sport, and I worked with my supervising teacher for HPE, watched him ref a match, running alongside him as he was reffing the inter-school match, and then I reffed the next match, and was quite impressed with that because I was making all the right calls and pulling up people, unlike what some teachers were doing. Continuing on from that, the rest of the day I was doing work while I did school sport for the film and media teacher I work with, getting footage of the matches for the video yearbook, which was good because we had two teams in three teams in the finals match, and two of them actually won the grand final, so it was quite cool to see that, especially at the end when the girls were jumping to each other in excitement. So it was a good day and things went really well. Okay, day 18 done. It's a bit late recording because I was watching the Origin. Good match. So today I had the free film and media classes, year 10s first, and was told that couldn't let anybody go film until after we did this fire drill, so it was a bit awkward. The students were asking, they're like, can we go film? Like, no, no one across the school's allowed to borrow our cameras during period 1. And a few students like, we're having a fire drill, aren't we? I'm like, no. So, unfortunately the room that we're in is soundproof due to its location, and the necessity that it needs to be soundproofed, because it is also the control room for the Performing Arts Centre for when they have performances on. So you can't really hear the alarm. You also have to keep an eye out for the light on top of the roof going off. So when I saw that, got all the students down to Oval in orderly fashion, and yeah, got them back, sent a few off to grab cameras so they could actually do the filming that they needed to. The teacher that was looking after the class, because my film and media teacher, he's away, he's on campus but he's away for the week from teaching. He got some good feedback from the teacher, who said that I did a really good job of managing the class during the evacuation and making sure they were going to the right spot and keeping them orderly and not mucking around. Moved on to the year 11s, once again as another supervising teacher, now quite impressed with how I managed the class and followed the school policy and basically held the control over the class. And then we had the year 12s, they did some work, and yeah, they did their work. I just kept an eye on them, made sure they were on task, checking what they've done so far, and it's quite impressive some of the work they've done. So it's quite good to see the transition from their planning all the way to their actual production editing. That afternoon had HPE, and I was on the Oval started off with some game-based drills and then moved on to a match, and then what they did is they combined the two classes together and they had what they called the schoolyard state of origin, which I kept on claiming that the refereeing was biased because the teacher who was refereeing was a Queensland supporter, and so in that match the Queensland team won 2-0, but in tonight's game, Blues won. So yeah, gives me bragging rights to come in tomorrow and go, yeah, Blues won, because didn't even really pay much attention to the fact that today was State of Origin. I came in wearing this nice blue shirt, and they're like, oh, you're representing the Blues today. I'm like, honestly, didn't really pay that much attention to it. So, but yeah, it was good to see the community spirit today as well among the students and the staff. Like, a lot of staff wearing their colours to represent. So it really did show that bond that the school has with sports. So yeah. So 2 days left. Tomorrow and on Friday, I'm working on this. I'm going to get some feedback from the students to understand what I've been doing that they've liked, what I should change, and what I should stop doing when I teach them in the classroom. And I'm going to put all those together and have a look at the outcomes. So yeah, yeah. Tomorrow should be.
Okay, second last day of prac. It's been quite a journey, and I'm kind of sad knowing that it's almost over. It's been a real life-changing and eye-opening experience over the last 4 weeks. Well, almost 4 weeks. So today what I did, I was just supervising classes, and I did an activity called traffic lights. It's sort of like a 360. I get the students to give me feedback, and it was almost comical. Year 11s, they're like, oh yeah, you're an awesome teacher, things I need to change, play more music in class, and things I need to stop doing is taking their phones off them when they're not using it, or when they're using it in class. Year 12s was a bit different when I did it with them. They're kind of contradicted themselves in terms. A lot of them were saying I'm a great teacher, they enjoy the lessons, and then the red light stuff, they're like, oh yeah, you get up us and get angry at us when we're not doing something right. And I'm like, turn around to the film and media teacher, I'm like, have you seen this? He's like, when have you ever gotten angry at them? And I'm like, that's what I was thinking. Turns out the people that wrote that were the ones going out filming, so they knew that they could get away with writing stuff like that. But the weirdest one of all was one that said I was too clingy, I was immature, and I hovered too much, and they didn't like the videos at the start of the lesson. And we're just looking at that, and all the students in the class saw it, and they're like, who would write that? That's really mean. And not true. How could you be clingy? And how are you being immature? You're, taking on a firm stance with people, but you're being relatable. And yeah, so reckon I know who wrote it, because I've been on their case about doing their work, and yeah. But it's quite good, and a few were like, oh, why you... they didn't like the fact that at the start of each lesson I'd do like a little learning episode where I'd use a video to describe something, because it's film and media. And it's just kind of like, well, you guys obviously didn't listen, because it's part of my requirements that I teach you guys little micro lessons, and it was agreed that the best way to do it would be show a video clip that's got something contextualized in it that's relevant to what you're doing at the moment. And it was good. I mean, like, a lot of students' feedback was positive. They've said to me, I've been a great teacher, I've been great help, they love my sense of humour, and they just love the energy I bring to the class and the help I give them. And it's like, even if they don't seem like they need help, I'll show interest in their work, and I'll be like, okay, so what approach are you going for? And they'll be like, oh, we're going to do this. I'm like, okay, have you considered doing this as well? Proposing to them alternatives, all the different avenues that they can take. And a lot of the students verbally said to me in that class that they really enjoyed me chipping in, contributing ideas and offering advice to them. So yeah, last up was the HPE class. Year 8
It was last year 8 high performance sport. Last class with them, did volleyball, had a bit of a blast, and got them to do the same thing. A lot of them hadn't actually had direct classes with me. About half the class did. Their comments were like, they really enjoyed the fitness session I ran last week. They really enjoyed N-ball and all the games that I taught them, as well as the leadership stuff. And all their things to stop doing and to change was basically like, stop supporting the Blues. Change your team preference to the Maroons. So it was quite interesting. Wrapped up the end of the afternoon. On my spare, I gave my film and media teacher a hand, as well as another one of the film and media teachers. I was helping them get together some marketing stuff, so went into a classroom and filmed some of the classwork that they were doing, and that's being used for a school marketing program, so it was a good day. I enjoyed it.
Okay, finally here, last day of prac. It's feeling a mix of emotions at the moment. Like, I want to keep teaching, I don't want to leave school, but at the same time, I do, because I know I have to go back to work, because I can't live off settling payments. So yeah. In saying that though, I did put in a request to go back to the school in one of my other pracs that I go on. So most likely this time next year I'll be back there teaching again. So yeah, let's recap the day.
Okay. Dancing beat. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Get you on your dancing beat. Hi everyone, I'm your best friend, back in town again. Get you on your dancing beat.
So, day 20, prac completely done and out of the way. To be honest, it was a unique and interesting experiences that I experienced the whole time I was out on prac. There was so many new things to learn, so many crises to overcome. It was quite full on. To say teaching is an easy job would be a lie. There's so much that goes into it, and I now realise that. But at the same time, it can be one of the most rewarding careers you can even contemplate engaging in. Over the last 4 weeks, I taught classes, learnt to manage behaviour, learnt what there is and need to be done to be a teacher, planned for lessons, prepared classes, think on the spot for fallbacks, been in a lockdown, done a fire drill, mark assessment even. It's a full-on job. I know it's not easy, but I think I managed to survive, which is the amazing thing. I even questioned my capacity to be a teacher at one point, which I think is a good thing to have done. If
if I just think it's going to be easy and I think, yes, I'm going to be able to do it all the way through, I don't think it's a job for me because it's not going to be challenging. But if I actually question whether I am capable of doing it because of some problems that have arisen, then definitely it is a job, because I'm putting myself on the spot. Am I able to do this? Or am I able to figure a way to overcome it? Am I able to improve myself? So my last day, I had the year 11 class with my HPE teacher, which ran quite well compared to last week when we worked with them and nearly 3/4 of the class walked off. In saying that as well, I think I've learned a lot since that lesson. Then moved on to the film and media class, and it was sad for a lot of them because they were upset to see me go, just as much as I was upset to be having to leave. So yeah. Then finally we had the Year 8 class, and I handed back their work, and this was after I got all my feedback from my teachers in the final report. And one of the big ones from HPE was I did have a tendency to not be able to manage behaviour as well as what I did in film and media. And in the last class, the teacher I work with ended up being like, wow, why couldn't you do this in all the other classes? I basically had all these students who were not doing the right thing. They were being rude, back chatting, and I just basically laid down the law. I even had one person going, oh, it's not like you can do anything, you're not a proper teacher, and even if you could, you leave, this is your last day. So it was with that attitude I ended up turning around. I walked up to their teachers and I spoke to them, and they're like, that teacher was currently away. So I spoke to my teacher and the other one that was on, and they're like, oh, good thing you told us that, because we were asked to keep an eye on them and make sure they're doing the right thing, because basically those girls causing trouble a lot, and it was almost like their last straw. So wrapped up the day pretty well and got everything signed off, and I went up to the principal to say thanks for having me at the school. She asked me how the experience was, and even said to me, you're more than welcome to come back and teach here anytime you'd like for your Prague experiences, and come back anytime you want to join in for some school events like the film workshop next Monday that's happening on the Queen's Long birthday weekend. I've been asked to come along to that and not be a facilitator, but join in with the other teachers who are monitoring the students who are going to be there. And she turns around and says to me, if you can make it, if you can survive your very first Prague at this school, you're more than qualified to teach at any school in Queensland, basically. And that made me feel so good, because I knew that I'd been through so much, and personally I think I've been through more than what most Prague teachers do in their whole entire field experience before they actually become a teacher, in that 1 4-week block. So it's been good. As a wrap up, this weekend I'm going through all the traffic light feedback that I received from the students, and I'm going to be doing a video response saying thanks to them for having me in class, and giving my personal feedback. So I'm going through all these here, and there's some funny ones in there, like one person said they suggest I review the school's phone policy. We've actually decided to look up the school's phone policy and use that as a rebuttal. But yeah, most of the bad feedback that I got from students was they didn't like me taking their phones off them. Some of the bad feedback really contradicted what everybody else was saying as well. So we sat there and were like, it's just probably a student who's, doesn't really like coming to school and hates it when a teacher's teaching the class properly. But at the same time, it's only to look at it critically, reflect and think, what can I do to improve? So the last 4 weeks, while I'm glad that they're over, I'm sad that they are too. It was such an eye-opening experience that I enjoyed so much. And I would do it in a heartbeat all over again.